Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Amanda Waddell, and I'm the training manager here at BVR. Our webinar today is RC Report Software Demonstration for Valuators with Rob Southworth, who is stepping in for our original speaker, Austin Anderson. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that your attendance today is eligible for 1 CPE credit. To receive the credit, you must answer 3 poll questions that will appear during this webinar, and you must complete and submit a brief survey within 5 business days. A link to that survey is included with your login email. It's also available on the event page for the program. At the conclusion of today's program, you'll automatically be directed to that survey. If you're registered as an additional listener, you must be on your own device so that you can respond to the questions and qualify for CPE. If during the webinar you have any trouble with the audio streaming, please try refreshing your screen to fix that issue. We'll take all questions for our presenter using the Q&A chat function on the side of your screen. Again, to receive your CE credit for today's webinar, you must answer 3 questions that will appear at random times during this presentation. Now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Rob Southworth is the VP of Sales and Marketing at RCReports and an ambitious leader with a proven track record of successfully building teams within the startup world. He's been with RCReports for 4 years, where he has developed deep expertise as a reasonable compensation expert. Our speaker's full bio can be found on the webinar presentation page as well. I'll turn this over to you, Rob. Have a great webinar.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Southworth. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at RCReports. As Amanda has mentioned, it's my pleasure to walk you through our new platform here today, and I want to thank BVR for having us. It looks like we have many current customers of ours on this webinar and also a few professionals that are interested in learning more, which is fantastic. Certainly excited to show you how easy and quick it is to run accurate and defensible reasonable compensation reports with our solution here today. At the end of this demo, you'll have really a full understanding of the end-to-end workflow of RCReports, including initiating a reasonable compensation engagement, completing that structured interview, generating and editing reports, and really understanding how the software supports compensation conclusions commonly relied upon in valuation, litigation, and really tax context. As Amanda had mentioned, a couple of housekeeping items. First off, there's a chat feature where you can all enter in your questions as we move through the presentation. We'll be responding to those in the chat as we move through this and also at the end of this presentation. So we're excited to get started here. And thank you again for joining. Let's get right into it. All right, quick agenda to set the stage. We'll have a quick intro here, get right into touring the platform and some of the changes we've made for all current customers that are attending here today. Definitely some new and enhanced user interfaces that I'm excited to walk through. We'll then run through the simple process of running a report, and then we'll talk subscription options for all those that are not a customer of ours as of yet. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about who we are for those that are unfamiliar. So for starters, RCReports is a cloud platform that determines reasonable compensation for small and medium-sized business owners, but we really didn't use it or build it for their use directly. What I mean by that is that we built it for the professional advisor. We built it for you. We built it for valuators, tax pros, CPAs, EAs, bookkeepers, financial advisors to use when you need to determine reasonable comp for a client. Because we've been in this reasonable compensation space for over a decade now, in fact, 14 years now. And we know that this process has been time consuming, costly. There are just a lot of unknowns that can put you and your client in danger. So with the IRS, there is a huge focus on compliancy around reasonable compensation these days. And I know we're not necessarily talking about the tax compliancy side of things here today. We'll be focusing more towards the valuation side, of course, but it's worth noting that this is low-hanging fruit for the IRS. And why I mention that is because one of the main reasons BVR has partnered with us over the years is because RCReports was built around IRS guidelines. In fact, we followed the exact methodologies that the IRS job aid recommends, which is geared towards valuation professionals. Key item here, we always get asked about our track record throughout the 14 years being in business here at RCReports, and our customers know this very well. we deliver an independent, unbiased, reasonable compensation report, which has a proven track record of being defensible with the IRS. In every IRS examination and court action to date, reports generated by RCReports have been accepted when backed up by our methodology. In fact, our methodology report is listed as a handout in this presentation because we certainly know evaluators are curious about where we're gathering our data and our methodology. So certainly check that out while I'm presenting, or of course after this presentation. Really, the underlying factor is that the foundation of our data comes from an aggregation of government survey information. These wage data sets are considered to be the gold standard for scientific collection, research, and accuracy. So our wage estimates, we get this asked as well. They're based on raw wage data gathered from a variety of public sources, such as the U.S. Department of Labor, individual state Department of Labor, and the U.S. Census Bureau, to name a few. But I will let you know that the RCReports data sets are referred to by the courts as a black box system. This means proprietary processes and algorithms for determining reasonable comp developed by RCReports. A couple features, key features that you see here on the screen. Our reasonable comp results are available immediately, so no waiting around. You'll see that here today. You'll have a 30-day edit window period on those reports, and you can certainly have multiple users from your organization listed under one account to run those reports. All right. What I'd like to do next is let's go over to rcreports.com, check out our new user interface and some of the new features we've developed. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I think we're in business. Fantastic. If you haven't checked out rcreports.com, feel free to check it out. We've added some new resources. This resource tab up top, it's fantastic, jam-packed with some helpful articles relating to business valuation and reasonable comp, the tax side of things, if there's any interest on that side, case studies. So certainly feel free to check out our website and specifically the resources. I've already logged into my demo environment, so I'm going to go ahead right over there. And this is our new user interface. So this may look a little bit different to our current subscribers. We've made some really nice enhancements, really from the feedback from you all. So we really appreciate some of the feedback that you all have given us to enhance this platform and make improvements. So this is our dashboard that you're seeing. On the left-hand side, you'll see some working tabs. We'll explore some of those here today. Up top, you'll see some different tiles. These tiles provide different status updates on the reasonable compensation reports that you'll be running. These will make more sense as we progress through the demonstration here today. Here with the new platform, really the best way to get to know how our platform works is in the upper right-hand corner where this big blue button titled New Report is. Let's go ahead and select that and run a test report for a test client. That's really the best way to get familiar with how this new platform works here. So step one, this is our report wizard. We're going to go ahead and select that client that we're looking to run that reasonable compensation report for. You can always click into this client field and just grab a quick client that I have listed below, or you can type in that client if you're aware of the name or business name. So let's go ahead and run a report for Nancy Reed of Reed's Coffee Company. If you are a prospect looking at RCReports for the first time, you can always go ahead and select new client and add in the client information. At no point do we take any sensitive client information. All that's required is first name, last name, business name, and email address. And you can add as many clients as you'd like inside your RCReports environment. So there is no limitation. I do want to stress that. In this case, we have a client selected, Nancy Reed. So I'm going to go ahead and select next here. With step number 2, here's where we're going to select why we're running this reasonable compensation report. And these are really the 4 areas or the 4 buckets of where reasonable compensation comes into play. Starting up the top is tax compliancy for S Corps. If you see these little question marks throughout the new platform, you can hover over them to learn more about these different selections. Like I mentioned, this is on the tax compliancy side. This is really the low-hanging fruit for the IRS here. If you're working with any C Corps and you're on the tax compliancy side, we can certainly run reasonable compensation reports for those clients. The big one here, normalizing compensation for a business valuation. That's going to be very heavily selected with this group. And then the 4th is planning. And as I hover over the planning section, you'll see entity planning, shareholder disputes, divorce, and much more. So in this case, for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and select normalizing compensation for a business valuation. Selecting next here is one of the main reasons why we have never lost the IRS over the course of 14 years being in business. Here, where we're taking the exact 3 approaches that the IRS job aid states for valuators, and we're applying those methodologies to our technology. So a lot of our current subscribers are very familiar with these approaches, starting up at the top, the cost approach, aka the many hats approach. This is really geared towards those business owners that do a lot within their business. They're wearing multiple hats. Really geared towards those kind of smaller businesses out there, where he or she could be doing, the cleaning, the marketing, the management, and much, much more. We really see the cost approach being selected on the tax compliancy side very, very often. Second approach here is the market approach, aka the industry comparison approach. This is really geared towards those business owners that are really solely focused on the management side of the business. So really, they're not doing all those other tasks. They're really sitting up at the highest level. We do see this very heavily selected at the business valuation side. And then finally, the income approach. This is a approach that's often selected to back up one of the other 2 approaches on the valuation side. It's not often selected on the tax compliancy side, but for the valuation side, we do see this selected to back up one of the other approaches here. To start, let's go through the cost approach. I'm going to go ahead and select cost approach. The 4th step here is where we have a couple of other selections or other preferences. Key thing here is we can go back in years if necessary. We have data going all the way back to 2001, so we can select any year that we'd like to run that reasonable compensation report for. I'm just going to select 2026 here. We can display the report to the client upon his or her completion of the interview. That's what we call delivery suppression. We'll get into that in just a minute. And then you could be notified once he or she completes the interview. So again, we're selecting the cost approach. The market approach is going to look a little different here in terms of the steps, but I thought we could run through the cost approach pretty quickly here to give you a glimpse. Last section here is where we can either complete the interview ourselves, or you can have your client complete it. So that you can easily send an automated email inviting your client to fill out the client interview, which we'll get into in just a minute here. And then you can also just click here to begin the interview if you want to complete this process, or let's say your client comes into your office and you just want to walk them through it. This is where you're able to get right into the interview right then and there. So I'm going to go ahead and select click here to begin the interview. And you'll see the new and improved interview user face. So we've certainly made some changes to the UI and UX. This interview takes about 5 to 10 minutes to complete. We're going to go quickly here today, but you'll see really the 5 same steps if you're a current subscriber that you're used to for the cost approach. Here is where Nancy, or if I'm doing this process for Nancy, here's where I'm going to select the time and location for her business. So let's say she works about 39 hours on average per week into her coffee business, and I'm going to select the state and county. So Adams County looks good, and you can see step 1 of 5 is complete up top. Again, we've selected the cost approach, aka the many hats approach. So all we're doing in step 2 is we're adding up all the various job duties that he or she performs within their business. So let's say that Nancy does some cleaning of the coffee facilities. I'm going to select add task here. let's say that she does some bookkeeping. So I'll select add task, and then finally down to, let's say that she does some supervising of her cafe workers. She's going to select add task there. So these are just general job duties that most business owners perform. The next step here is where we actually get into some of the specifics that relate to the industry that that business owner is in. So let's say that she does some coffee roasting. I can begin to type coffee roaster, find coffee roaster, and add that task. I do want to remind all current subscribers and new prospects that there is no shortage of occupations and professions in our database. We are the largest database of wages inside the United States, and you can certainly select more than one. So if you're working with a real estate agent, that's also, a real estate manager, yourself or the client can go in and select more than one business task. But these are specialized tasks that really fall outside the common tasks that we've already selected in step 2. All right, moving quickly here, tasking proficiency. This is where we're going to allocate how many hours on average does Nancy put into those different hats that she's wearing within her coffee business until that pie chart equals 100%. Again, looks a little different than our previous interview that we had. So, and then the last step here is proficiency. This is where we're going to rank those different job duties that Nancy performs. And we're all set here. So how quick, so how easy that was. I'm going to go ahead and select view reports. Our reports have changed as well. So you'll see kind of a snazzier design, if you will. So I do want to remind everyone on this webinar that you can always white label these reports. So you can add your logo, seal up top in the upper left. And in this case, we determined Nancy's compensation to be right around $55,000. When we scroll down, this is the details page. This is a key page in the examination, and in court, this page shows exactly how the reasonable comp figure was calculated. As you can see, what we're doing is we're looking at the job duties, the proficiency, number of hours they're putting into those different job duties. We're drilling down to the county hourly wage level and then adding up those annual wages to determine that reasonable comp figure. And that is how the IRS determines reasonable comp at the cost approach level in the IRS job aid for Valuators. So business summary, stamping the year, some of the preferences that we selected, a page describing how the reasonable comp figure was calculated, a methodology. We call out the job aid for IRS valuation professionals down here. It's one of the main reasons why these reports have never lost the IRS on the tax side and also have stood up on the valuation side and in court. Some other considerations, we call out some court cases that influence this reasonable compensation figure. And then a complete description, excuse me, of all the different job duties that Nancy has selected. So that is the all-in-one report. That is really the bread and butter of RCReports. You've probably noticed this draft watermark in the background. That's because these reports are in a 30-day edit window period. So if you and or your client need to go back in, make any changes to, let's say, some of the proficiency inputs that you made, or you wanted to add a different hat that Nancy is wearing, you certainly can do so within the 30 days. I do want to also point out you can always finalize these reports before the 30 days are up as well. So if you'd like to finalize this today, you certainly can do so and eliminate that draft watermark. All right. I do see a question that I'll answer right here. Does the database provide compensation data for professional service firms, providers such as doctors, lawyers, and CPAs? And the answer is certainly. We certainly have professional service wage data, certainly for doctors, lawyers, and CPAs. Good question there. All right. Let's go back to the dashboard here. What I'll do is I will go into clients real quick and just give you a glimpse of that report that we just ran. So This is a new screen. This is kind of the report synopsis page where we have a couple of options here. We can view the report PDF that we just generated. We can send the report directly to Nancy. We can view the interview. If I need to go back in and make any changes to that interview, I certainly can do so. I can send the interview again to Nancy. If I wanted to say, hey, Nancy, I'd like for you to revise this input, I can send that interview again. And then finally, we can finalize the report, just eliminating or removing that draft watermark. So once those reports are finalized, I do want to note we tend not to put them back into draft form. That's just for credibility purposes. So that's why we provide that window of 30 days to make sure the report is rock solid and you're ready to remove that draft watermark. We do have a nice section down below where we list out some of the inputs in the reasonable compensation report and questionnaire. You can always add internal notes for yourself around that report or around that client. And you can certainly save all of those directly to the client profile. All of your clients will be listed here. So you'll see active. You can always archive a client. You'll be able to see reports, sub-reports, and the last report date. You probably have some questions about what are sub-reports. We're certainly going to get into that in just a minute, but wanted to give you a glimpse of the new client page where it's very easy to navigate and select the clients and learn more about those reasonable compensation reports that are attached to a client. All right, my hope for this presentation was to run a market approach as well. So let's go through that. Probably the easiest way is just run a market approach for the same client, Nancy Reed. So let's go ahead and accomplish that there. I went quickly, but again, the easiest way to go ahead and run a report is just select new client or new report up in the upper right. So let's go ahead and select that. And we're going to run through the same process like we just did. So we're going to find Nancy Reed from this drop down. We're going to select the purpose. So let's say normalizing compensation for a business valuation. And then finally for approach, we're going to select a different approach this time, market approach. And actually a pretty quick process, a little bit quicker than the cost approach. If you're a current subscriber, you're probably very familiar with these different fields. This is where we're going to select the year for that report we're looking to run for my client. Select the industry, so that NAICS code. So let's just select food manufacturing, looks good. We're going to select an occupation. We do have info bubbles here with the question marks, so I can hover over them to get a better understanding of these different selections. So general and operations manager looks good. Select a state, so I'll select California here. Number of full-time employees, I'll say 10 to 25. I can select an area. So let's say San Diego, Carlsbad looks good. Adjusted gross profit, I'll go 5 million to 10 million. And I won't go into all of these in too much depth here, but owner experience, time dedicated to the business. And again, important to hover over these info bubbles just to learn more if you're a new subscriber to RCReports. And we have that wage generated. This is kind of a quick snapshot of that market approach reasonable compensation number. What's the easiest thing to do here is just to click Save to Client. And we're going to, it brings you right back to Nancy Reed's profile. And if you're looking for that report, here's where I'm going to click View Report up here and look at that market approach report for Nancy. So a little bit of a different format. That's just because the market approach is certainly different than the cost approach, as you probably well know. But in this case, we generated this reasonable comp figure to be right around $115,000. We see the local, the state, the national level, low, high, and suggested. The business summary, all of those inputs I have put in for the market approach. And very similar to the cost approach, a page describing how the reasonable comp figure was calculated, the methodology that's being used. Again, just as a reminder, certainly check out that methodology report that's in the handout section if you're wondering about, the data, the structure of the methodology that we use. That will certainly be helpful. Some other considerations, again, call out some court cases that influence that reasonable compensation figure. I see a question here. There are many references to IRS acceptance and or not rejecting the data. Do you have any support for court cases where RCR data has been accepted explicitly? Some color around these statements would be very helpful and supportive. Yes. And on my screen, we have a YouTube channel. I'm going to provide it in the chat and also answer this question. Definitely check these videos out. These are some of the top valuation experts in the country. We also have case studies listed on our website under resources. So check out the case studies and also the industry insights. You'll find some really, really nice references to our data. And I believe there some cases inside that methodology report. We certainly obviously get questions about our data since we are our data set is a black box set, and it's very important to obviously build that credibility. So good question there. All right, let's go back to the platform. A new tab or a new working tab is under our tasks section. This has been getting some great reviews from our current subscribers. This allows you all in one spot to look at your open interviews. So those are those interviews that have not been completed at the cost approach level by your clients. You can see reports in edit window period. So if I click on this tile, it shows all those reports that have not been finalized yet. Let's say that you add a client and you just, whatever it may be, maybe you forgot to run a report, or maybe you're just waiting. You can see all the clients with no reports, and then reports due. This is, I'm not going to lie, this is really geared towards that tax compliancy side where documentation is really needed every year for record purposes on the tax side. So reports due is most likely a tab that won't be utilized often by the valuator, but something to certainly just keep in mind. So, all right, let's go into resources. We've added some new resources to our resource library, so definitely check those out. We have our engagement letter for clients. We have our issue letter for clients, field guide to leverage reasonable comp. Again, some of these speak directly to the tax compliancy side. What is reasonable compensation? A flyer for your clients. I'll just open some of these up to give you a glimpse, but some of these have been revised. So let's say that you're working with a client and they're just in the dark with, not knowing what reasonable compensation is. These resources are readily available to you all in the resource library section. This is definitely an area to check out, our RCReports interview questionnaire. So if you're looking to, let's say, run an income approach or a market approach, we can simply grab a hard copy of those questions. Let's say that you don't know the answer for business performance versus peers or proficiency level for one of your clients. Firms often provide this as a hard copy and provide it to their client, and then input all of these responses directly into the process that we just walked through. So certainly keep those in mind in our resource library. Job aid for IRS valuation professionals. If you're ever curious about some of the methodologies, the income, cost, market approach that the IRS calls out in this job aid, feel free to take a look at it here. We do call out some court cases that often get mentioned from time to time. And so we have these listed down below. We have our IRS fact sheets, IRS guidelines. And then finally, if you ever lose that methodology report, we do see that methodology report being used in court to support those reasonable compensation reports that you generate. So feel free to always submit this form here, and we'll certainly send along the methodology report. But again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but certainly take a peek at that methodology report in the handout section. It certainly will be useful. So, all right. The other area I do want to point out is our tools section. So we certainly find Valuators go into our wage lookup tool. So these tools are readily available for you all to use. Since we are the largest database of wages inside the United States, we're able to provide a wage lookup tool to allow you to look up wages on the fly without necessarily having to run reasonable compensation reports. Sure, you'll want those documents, you'll want that report, but this is a really nice way to look up wages very, very quickly. I do want to, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but all of our wage data is updated on a quarterly basis. So you can be assured you're accessing the most recent and reliable wage data that's out there. So for instance, let's go into, let's say Florida, Duval County. And let's say I'm just working with, I'll just pull a random profession here. I'll type in hair and try to find a hairstylist, and voila, I found hairstylist here. I'm going to select hairstylist, and within seconds, I can see what a hairstylist should be paid based on proficiency at the county level, the state level, and the national level at an hourly rate and an annual rate. So this is really valuable for business valuators. It provides defensible support for those valuation reports. Like I mentioned, valuators don't just need a number, they need to defend it. So it uses independent, unbiased wage data updated on a quarterly basis, like I mentioned. And it really it replaces those weak or risky data sources to look up wages very, very quickly. And so it's a really reliable way for you to kind of get a range very, very quickly based off of those selections that we have or that you input up top. So that is our wage lookup tool, and it is readily available on the left-hand side. I do want to walk through our entity planning tool. It may not be relevant to everybody that's on this call, but we certainly don't shy away from it. At times, there's different tax departments that's connected to your firm, and it's there for you to use. It comes with the subscription. So I'll click into clients here. I'm going to click into Nancy Reed since we've been focused on that client. I'm going to find just a report here, and I'm going to scroll down to sub-reports. I believe I went into sub-reports, that little column that said reports and then sub-reports. So sub-reports are those entity planning reports. I'm going to click on open here and scroll down. This is where we can actually compare an S Corp to other pass-through entities such as Schedule Cs, LLCs, just to name a few. So again, I won't go into this in too much detail. I just want you all to know that it is there. It comes with a subscription if there's ever a need. This really shows, hey, let's say Nancy is an LLC. Does it make sense to move Nancy from an LLC to an S Corp? How much would she save over a 10-year period? So it's a very powerful tool if you're ever in need of this type of advisory service for your clients. This is where we already have some numbers to input into these fields. Total annual net profit, that reasonable comp figure that you generate is automatically input. Save changes, and up top we have a report that shows that 10-year savings. So by moving Nancy from an LLC to an S Corp, we can save her right around $175,000. It is white labeled for your firm, and we have a complete year-to-year breakdown. Again, do not want to go into this in too much depth. Feel free to contact me if you would like a longer walkthrough. I'd be happy to give it to you with our entity planning tool, but we obviously see a lot of our tax professionals use this tool, but I always like to show it just in case there is kind of a tax side or tax compliance or advisory side of your firm that could benefit from this. So, all right, how are we doing on time? Fantastic. All right. Last thing I'm going to go through, I'll go through an income approach report really quickly just to give you a look of that. I won't go through the whole thing, but I will show you just some of the inputs that are needed. So I'll select Nancy Reed. I'll select the purpose, normalizing compensation for evaluation, and I'll select the income approach. This is often called the independent investors test. This is really used to back up one of the main approaches, either the cost approach or the market approach. It's fairly straightforward. When I select income approach, you'll select the tax year, and all that's needed is estimated fair market value in the beginning of the year, estimated increase in fair market value at the end of the year, and the target return percentage. And that will give you that estimated reasonable compensation. So I do not want to leave that out just because, of course, there are three approaches. The income approach, if you don't know, this is often used when there is zero comparability data out there. So working with a profession like a specialty hot air balloon technician where there is just zero wage data inside the United States, the income approach is often used for that. And also on the valuation side, to back up one of those two approaches that we walk through, the cost or the market. Fantastic. That about wraps up the quick walkthrough of our platform. For new professionals that are looking at our platform for the first time, I'd like to go to the BVR website in the RC Reports section and just walk through some subscription options. So scrolling down, this chart is a really nice way of looking at what we have to offer and the plans that BVR and RC Reports offer to you all. So our premium subscription, it comes with 25 reasonable compensation reports. You can always purchase additional reports on top of those 25. The users included, so one user included inside your firm. Report years, we provide all report years for every single subscription plan. So you can go back all the way to 2001 and run those reasonable compensation reports. Current year data, as you can see, it's already inside of our platform. So you can certainly run reasonable compensation reports for the 2026 year. All approaches, so cost approach, market approach, income approach, and of course, normalizing compensation for a business valuation for the report purpose is there as well. The big thing in terms of the differences between premium and professional is that wage lookup tool, delivery suppression, and custom branding. So custom branding, of course, is that logo on those reports that we walk through. Delivery suppression is for the cost approach only. So when they finish the cost approach interview, if you'd rather not have them be able to view the interview, or excuse me, the report after they complete the interview, that's where you can suppress that delivery of that report. So that is inside the professional. And then the wage lookup tool that we walk through, instantly accessing all those wage data points on the fly, that is provided in the professional subscription. So the professional includes 50 reports, users included, goes up a bit to 3 reports. And then our platinum tier, listed at $3,500, includes 100 reports, includes 6 users, and of course has all of those features that we walk through. And then feel free to contact sales@bvrresources.com if you are interested in one of our customized enterprise plans. There are some nice downloads here on the BVR website, so certainly feel free to check that out. Methodology report, business task selection, some guidance with that cost approach and the decision tree. Which approach should I use? You can always feel free to reach out to BVR and also RC Reports. We are always happy to assist. We've got the top reasonable comp industry experts on our staff. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions on, approach, how to complete that interview. We're always here to assist. some helpful FAQs and also some free webinars. You may have heard of our founder, Paul Hammond. He's been in the space for 14 years now, since he was the founder of this company. But definitely feel free if you are interested in learning more about reasonable comp. We do present on many different platforms, but obviously very excited to provide this presentation for you all today. Obviously, you've seen some different changes to the UI and the UX. The user interface certainly looks a little different, but like I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, we've received some really nice feedback with just the overall flow of how to complete those reasonable compensation reports, and some new tools and some new features as we walk through here today. So I'd like to pause there. Any questions on the new platform? Any subscription questions? We have about 10 minutes here, so we'd love to walk through any other areas you would all like to explore.
We can give it a couple seconds because there's just a slight delay in between the live and when questions come in.
Sure. What I will do too is, since it is a new user interface, there are some areas that have changed, and I'll select up top under settings. So if you are looking to update your logo, your subscription type, users, everything can be updated now under your name, under settings. So as you can see, I just updated a quick logo here. It is important to click Save Changes. I do want to emphasize that when you're making any changes to your firm name, contact information, and logo. But you'll be able to add different users as as your subscription progresses, all through the settings area, and that is certainly a new feature. Our help section has changed as well. Again, feedback from our customers. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to reach us and as well as BVR. So you can easily submit a ticket, and that can be seen directly inside of our platform for our customers. You can always certainly call us, and we can provide that support. No issues at all.
I don't see any questions, so if you want me to take it from here, I'm happy to.
Yeah, sounds great.
Great. Well, on behalf of BVR, I want to thank Rob for joining us and for sharing his expertise. As a reminder, to receive CE credit, you must complete and submit a brief survey on this webinar. A link to the survey is provided in your login email and on the reading page for today's webinar. Your feedback is key to providing the best possible programs for you, so please provide us with any suggestions you may have. If you choose to fill out the survey now, your browser will automatically direct you to the CE credit page when I finish speaking, so don't disconnect. The survey will be active for 5 days and must be completed before we can process certificates. After 5 business days, we'll process your CE and send your certificates via email. You can also now access them on your individual MyBVR account under CPE History and Certificates. If you have any questions related to the content or format of this webinar, please email me at training@bvresources.com. Coming up for more BVR webinars, this Thursday on April 16th, we have Introducing the Certified in Provider Compensation Valuation Credential with Timothy Smith. And on April 23rd, we have 1 year later, Tariff Policy Impacts on Private Company Valuations with Josh Schultz. You can find additional offerings on our calendar page as well under live events. Thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your day. We're going to end this webinar now, so please go ahead and fill out the survey.